as bullying and a distraction from priorities. Congresswoman Nancy Mace defended her proposal.
This is a person who's threatened to come into women's private spaces, and I'm a survivor of rape, sexual violence, and abuse. And I know how deeply vulnerable women are in places where we feel we have a right to privacy. And this is not okay. If you're a biological man, if you're born a man, you use the men's restroom. I will not be bullied into silence. I will not back down. And in fact, I'm going to double down on this. And I'm going to file even more legislation to protect women beyond the Capitol, across every state in the nation. Because the simple question is, do women have rights or not?
Mixed reactions toward the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, headed by billionaires Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Incoming White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, says the federal government is not watching where taxpayer dollars are being spent.
Who has any idea how much waste and abuse there is in the trillions of dollars spent by this federal government? Who has any idea how many hundreds of billions of dollars every year are stolen from taxpayers by fraud rings, scammers, foreign operatives?
The legacy media is trying to figure out how to deal with a second Trump presidency, since their orange man bad tactic clearly backfired during the 2024 campaign. Steve Jordahl reports.
You couldn't find a more hardcore never Trump news show over the last 10 years than MSNBC's Morning Joe. But there they were last week at Mar-a-Lago having a sit-down with a man they repeatedly called Hitler. They took a lot of heat from their liberal peers, so they tried to explain why they went.
We didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communication.
There was a lot of, we're going to be hard on him and we're not trying to normalize him, but MRC's Tim Graham is not buying it.
I would not want to say that Joe and Mika are deeply sincere people instead of calculating cable news millionaires.
All the liberal news networks that built their audience on hating Trump are trying to figure out how to retool, since the fascist mirage surrounding the former and soon-to-be president has faded and brand Trump is all the rage.
He was not a fascist dictator in the first term. Reality is going to intrude on this whole vision that they've shown.
Graham says some will pick a new lane, but others will persist, and they won't be all wrong.
I don't expect CNN or MSNBC to change. I think that their viewership is down right now because the liberals are depressed. I imagine when Donald Trump is inaugurated and that sinks in, that a bunch of these people will come back to these networks.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Is God calling you to ministry? It's time to multiply your capacity for ministry with an affordable degree. The Bachelor of Arts in Christian Ministry at Wesley Biblical Seminary is the degree for you. When God called you to ministry, He called you to preparation. This degree is the education that you need to put all the pieces together for an amazing life of ministry. You will graduate with a confidence for ministry that is backed up by your competence in the scriptures, theology, and ministry. Come learn with a trusted seminary that will help you become a faithful leader. Learn more at wbs.edu.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. Today's Wednesday, November the 20th, 2024. And again, we thank you for listening. Joining me in studio is Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Wesley Wildman.
I'm glad to be on.
And Fred Jackson.
Yeah, good to be here, Tim.
All right, so by the way, at the bottom of the hour, Steve Chapman will be joining us, not Stephen Curtis, but Steve Chapman. Steve and Annie Chapman, that
name should be familiar.
Yeah, that couple, they were a singing musical group, family back in the day. Still are, but they don't, travel and write new music and that kind of things anymore. So Steve and Annie Chapman. So Steve will be with us at the bottom of the hour. It's been a while since he's been on American Family Radio. He's got a new book out, which would be a great stocking stuffer as they say, or a gift, just straight up gift idea for people who have friends or family who are golfers. He wrote a devotion, and it's called A Look at Life from the Fairway. And so we're going to talk to Steve, and we're going to play one of their songs that
Now, there's spiritual.
go back.
There's it's a spiritual book, right? Or
No,
what?
it's a golf instructional book. You know how to keep you right.
This is all day yesterday. Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Or all morning. This is all morning.
No, it's a spiritual book. It's a devotional book. Okay. Yeah. Steve wrote a very popular book for deer hunters called A Look at Life from the Deer Stand. From a deer stand.
Ah.
I'd like
Back
to check
in
that
the-
one out. I'm
Yep.
gonna stock and stuff my own stocking with that one.
You can stock and stuff your own stucker.
Stocker.
Stalker?
There's
I
no
know
rule against that.
No, you just better be careful right there.
That's right.
Better be careful. All right, so we'll talk to Steve Chapman coming up at the bottom of the hour.
You asked,
Go
you
ahead.
asked a question right before we
I did.
came on the program here.
What was the question I asked, Wesley?
Question was how many Senate seats are still left?
Not Senate.
Not Senate, House seats. How
House
many,
of Representatives
right. How many House seats are still left
to count.
to count? And 2 weeks after the election, or after the election, there's 5 House seats still undecided
Because they're counting.
because they're still counting, and their prediction is in 2026 they will have
They will have it
completed.
wrapped up.
Yes.
All right, listen,
time for the midterms.
I'm not for embarrassing people, but where are these races? Where are they counting now?
let's see
Still,
here.
tell me.
Alaska at
Alaska.
large.
All right, well, that
California's 13th congressional district, California's 45th congressional
All right.
district, Iowa's 1st congressional district, and Ohio's 9th congressional district.
they must have almost extremely tight races, and they can't. I don't know. I'm trying to understand why you're not through 2 weeks after the election, even with a recount, huh?
Yeah, I don't understand. Right now, Republicans are up 218 to 212 with 5 still pending. So, a couple of those are in. You said California, so no.
Yeah, and so like one of these in Iowa's 1st congressional district, this is the race between Republican Representative Marionette Miller Meeks, hyphenated name, and Democrat Christina Bohannon.
Okay.
And so Miller Meeks, the Republican, leads by 108 votes with 99% of the vote counted. That is slim.
Yeah.
But still, 99% of the vote counted. 2 weeks
What are they
later.
working 3-hour days? I mean, it's 2 weeks.
Can one of them just tell the other one how much? What do you want me to write the check for? Can you just do that? Just say, hey, let's be done with this. How much do you want? You know what I'm saying?
I'm not sure
Can
it
you
works
do
that way.
I don't know.
Okay.
This
All right, so hey, real quickly, Wesley, before we get to Brother Fred over here and the news of the day, and it's all good, it's all positive. I would like you to tell folks how they can access the podcast of this here show.
First, you can go to what I recommend is the easiest is afr.net. So go to afr.net. You can listen live there, and you can listen anywhere you are. If you've got internet, you can listen at afr.net. There, we also archive our podcasts and all the other radio programs that we air throughout the day. They're archived there, so if you happen to walk away or not able to listen to the second half of the program, you can go find it there. Also, you can go to stream.afa.net if you are just so bold to want to watch us.
Yes.
If that's something you're interested in, stream.afa. It's not streaming, it's stream.afa.net. And, of course, we're on all the social media platforms, so you can just look us up there.
Yeah, we had 163,000 podcast downloads last month, October.
Wow.
And that's what I said. I said it, just like you said it right there.
That's so we're AFR. We can consider AFR an influencer.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's
not one person.
It's a
but
big word.
Yes.
Oh, today's issues.
Influencer.
If you combined our today's
It's a dated word, but it's
Is it really? Is it dated?
Probably so.
Oh, my
There's probably
goodness.
another one.
What's that?
I was thinking I'm with it. I'm throwing around influencer, and now I find out I'm
Influencers, yeah.
behind the curve again.
Anyway, thank you everybody who listens to the show and downloads the podcast. Fred, what's your first story?
First story, as we sit here, closing arguments are underway in the trial of that illegal alien charged with murdering that Georgia nursing student, Laken Riley. His name is Jose Ibarra, 26 years old. I I was able to listen to some of the testimony in the first few days of this trial. Jose Ibarra, 26, arrived in Athens, Georgia, after a taxpayer-funded flight from New York, so-called what the Biden administration called humanitarian flights. So free flight down to Georgia. During testimony, the prosecution said immediately upon arriving in Athens, Georgia, Jose Ibarra, 26 years old, went hunting for women. That's what the courtroom was told. So closing arguments are underway there. The Laken Riley case has been used by many to express grave concern about what's going on in this country in the wake of the Biden administration's border policies, that so many violent people have come into this country, and like Jose Ibarra, out there on the streets and being catered to. I believe he stayed in a nice hotel in New York when he first arrived there, and ended up in Athens, Georgia. Now, this is a case elected by the defense to be heard only by a judge, Superior Court Judge H. Patrick Haggard, and I expect the deliberations, because the arguments were fairly weak from the defense side, that we could have a decision within a couple of days on that case. Now,
by the way, let me just point this out. At least according to the media that I've been reading, the prosecution's case against Ibarra included DNA on key pieces of evidence to security camera footage and cell phone data, placing him at the location of the crime at the time this poor girl was killed.
Yeah, there are so many video cameras out there these days, which is a really good thing. Part of the prosecution that I was able to see was a man who was identified as Ibarra going to dumpsters and dumping things in, pieces of clothing, kind of rubber gloves, et cetera, et cetera.
So the trial is going on?
Closing arguments are on.
Closing arguments. So he could be sentenced any hour now.
Yes.
If he's found guilty.
If he's found guilty.
Is found guilty. Okay.
Yes.
So the bottom line of this story is, and it's repeated many times over, maybe not crimes as severe as this, where you have a young lady murdered, but still the bottom line, and this is one of the reasons that Biden and Harris lost the election, is because we allowed people to pour into our country illegally from all over the world by the millions the last 4 years. And some of those are gang members. Some of those are violent criminals, as we have here, allegedly, if he's found guilty. It looks like he will be, but we'll see. And so in response to that, the bottom line is that this young lady would not have been killed had this man not been allowed to come into America illegally and roam around the country. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. And who's responsible for that? Joe Biden. And Kamala Harris. And I'm not saying they murdered the girl, but they allowed the man in who shouldn't have been here into our country illegally, who murdered her, and he should not have been here.
And this is going to be an issue for the next 5 to 10 years. And I don't, even with the best effort from the Trump administration, what's already has taken place is the ripple effect is yet to be at its peak or at its end.
Oh yeah,
for sure. And I that's one thing that I still am very discouraged about, is how and what we do about those that are around 18 million, depending on the most, a million immigrants, illegal immigrants that have come across the border in the last 4 years. And I just don't know what you do. I mean, it's not a good thing.
Well, that's going to be one of Trump's, jobs. The next, what are you going to do with these folks? Yeah. Because it's got. I don't know. I don't know what you do. It's a mess.
I do know this much. You do start with the criminals.
Yes.
Start there.
Yeah. And shutting down the border.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Start there first.
No, but both of those, though, the criminals.
You can do that simultaneously.
Do it simultaneously.
You stop you reversed what Biden did. You stopped you shut down the border now.
Yes.
As soon as possible.
And you can, I don't know why.
What are y'all saying about the criminals?
Those who have, well, they're all criminals if they've crossed the border illegally. I'm talking about those that have crossed the border illegally and then have committed violent crimes and have already been due process and put back out on the streets. They have a record, and to take those illegal immigrants first and send them back would be my suggestion.
Or
I wouldn't send
people
them back.
who are criminals in their own country. You know, if we know,
I'm sorry, that's
no, I mean it's in addition to what you're saying. If they are known criminals from Venezuela, because Venezuela emptied some of their prisons out,
right?
And you were in a prison in Venezuela, out you go.
Okay, where I disagree is not with y'all necessarily, but I don't think you should send violent criminals. Let them go. Deport them. You should punish them here.
I'm talking about after they've been punished here and they've been let. What I'm saying is, like in New York, they cuff them, they take them in, and then they let them out the next day. What I'm saying is take those that have a criminal record. Not necessarily I'm not saying take those that are in prison necessarily that are.
Okay, let's take this fella for instance, right here. If he's convicted of murder, what's his name?
Jose Ibarra.
He goes to prison in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
I agree with that.
Are we all in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I hear some people say take violent criminals like him, for example, and put them on a plane and send them back to where they came from.
No, I don't think that.
I misunderstand.
I don't think Laken Riley's parents want this guy free at all.
Yeah, no, I disagree.
This guy should be punished. I think what I'm saying is if they were known criminals in their own country and came here illegally, even if they don't commit a crime here, they don't rob a store.
Well, they're more likely going to.
Yeah, then you send them back.
Or in addition to that, I'm in favor of taking those who have a criminal record here, but are not in prison. So if you've committed crimes here,
I got you.
In addition to, they've already committed a crime by crossing the border illegally,
and make the U.S. taxpayer a couple $1,000s to send them back where they came from, then they can come back over the border.
And anyway,
I don't want. It's frustrating, but the sooner Trump gets into power, the better.
Yeah.
To shut this down because.
And I'm also in favor of a 2-year no entry for anybody for any reason.
That's
under
not a
any
bad
circumstances. We've got enough. We've got to deal with.
No immigration.
None.
We've done that before as a country.
Put a pause on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Next story, Fred.
Well, it is connected to this story, and there are other stories besides this one. A little 12-year-old girl, I believe, was in Texas, was raped, murdered. And there are 2 illegal aliens being charged in that case. Despite all of these stories, these horrible stories, last night in Los Angeles City Council voted unanimously to become a sanctuary city.
I thought they already were.
California
is, isn't it?
They were by philosophy. Now it is a city ordinance that police there and authorities are not to cooperate with ICE officials who may be coming in. Now, Tom Homan is President-elect Trump's border czar. We know where he stands on this. He's not going to allow a state or a city declaring themselves sanctuary cities to stop his goal of going in and getting violent, illegal aliens out of this country. Cut number 2.
Out of the gate, we're concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. What politician, whether you're a mayor or a governor, is saying, no, I want public safety threats to remain in my community? I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what he's talking about.
He's talking about why would a city or a state declare themselves sanctuary cities. What Tom Homan is saying, our priority is to go after violent, illegal aliens.
And national security threats.
National security threats. Why would a city or a state say, no, we want to protect these people?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. Listen, this is frustrating when you have these left, and it's always the leftist governments in these cities and states. Can you imagine if there was a city in Massachusetts? There are fairly conservative in New York or Massachusetts who said, you know what, we know what the law is. Well, our town is a gun sanctuary. We are going to protect the Second Amendment. We are not going to cooperate with any government. Now, these cities have the right, and these states do have the right to say we're not cooperating with the federal government because it's just that. The federal government says we would like your cooperation. But if it was an issue on the right in a liberal state, they'd go ballistic.
Mm-hmm. All right, so explain to me, practically speaking, Ed, how this might work. In other words, you're a sanctuary. Los Angeles declares their city council, we are a sanctuary city, city of Los Angeles. Okay, which means, and fill in the blank, which means when you say not cooperate, so let's say the Los Angeles Police Department, an officer arrests somebody, and he doesn't have documentation. He can't prove he's a citizen. In fact, you pretty well know he's an illegal alien.
Yeah.
Does this mean they just don't do anything with the person, or do they don't call ICE? I mean, ICE being the Immigration Customs Enforcement. In other words, they're the people in charge of enforcing our immigration laws.
Right. And
so does the L.A. Police Department say, no, we're not going to contact ICE because our city council says we can't cooperate with the federal government?
Yeah, let me set aside the
how does
issue.
That work exactly?
Let me set aside the issue of crime for just a second.
Okay.
Let's say there's a call for the police for domestic disturbance.
Okay.
Okay, no charges have been filed. You show up. The police discover that these people are here illegally.
Right.
Okay. No one's been charged with anything. This is not a criminal matter. They call ICE, and ICE comes and gets them and deports them. If the police pull over someone for speeding or even just a fender bender, and they find out that these individuals are here illegally in other states, they call ICE. So it's not necessarily about the criminal aspect. It's just the police find out that these people are here illegally. They're not required by federal law because the feds can't order states or cities to act as their representatives. But traditionally, it has been just a cooperation. So we know these people here illegally, call ICE, and they'll be deported, and nothing else is done.
Yeah, I've heard from police, more than one, that when they, like you're talking about, maybe you have a car speeding down the highway and they're going 20 miles over the speed limit. You pull them over and you got a car of four what appears to be illegal aliens here. Okay, nobody has a driver's license. Nobody has proof of citizenship. And so what do you do?
No insurance.
No insurance. Nothing.
Right.
What do? You either take them downtown to the police department, spend about 4 hours doing paperwork with people you can't speak English, or you just say, all right, get on out of here and let them go and move on down the road. And I've heard a couple of policemen say it's easier just to let them go on down the road than to do the work or to call ICE. And in this case, if you were in Los Angeles, you couldn't call ICE.
Yes, that's what this Los Angeles.
Well, you know what? Send them all to Los Angeles then. Yep. I just say do a bus, just like Governor Abbott of Texas has had.
Yeah. Well, that's coming. They said they're preparing for that.
Okay, well, let them have it. But what I mean, problem solved. We could just funnel all the people who now they're about to stop coming because President Trump's going to take control of the border. We just consider all the people who come here illegally to the U.S. Just take them to
residents of Los Angeles.
Yes,
and you know what? Ultimately, I'll just say this, and we can move on. But ultimately, these kinds of city councils, because this was a unanimous vote, they haven't gotten the message from the election 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So eventually, you're going to see cities flipped red.
Well,
over this issue,
you will, and also too, we got to remember all of the celebrities that live in Los Angeles. It wasn't until Steph Curry that they had put up government housing right beside his multi-million-dollar neighborhood.
I didn't even hear about that.
Oh, it wasn't until that happened until he got involved. But he was inviting them, all that kind of thing. But all of a sudden, when they're up against their gated communities, they either do one or two things. They either go moderate and move states, or they start complaining.
Yeah.
So it's coming. My point is the city council can make this unanimous, until it's up against their neighborhoods.
Next story, Fred.
All right.
Good point, Wesley. Very good point.
Under the heading, it was going to happen sooner or later. A man by the name of Sarah McBride.
You don't name a man Sarah.
He does.
Where I'm from. Huh? Sarah's a girl.
I don't know. I'm not a biologist.
Sarah's a girl's name. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, Sarah, has been elected to a House seat, Democrat from Delaware. And a controversy has erupted over what washrooms or bathrooms he is going to be allowed to use.
You mean he was elected by the people of Delaware?
Yes.
To represent them in the United States House of Representatives?
That is correct.
And he's a man who dresses up like a girl?
That is correct.
And calls himself Sarah.
Yes.
He's a boy named Sue.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, okay, what about this person?
Well, let me I'm going to have Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace let her have her moment as why she is concerned.
She's not one to hold her tongue.
No, and she has no intention of sharing a bathroom with Sarah.
Okay, that's all right. Do we need to screen this in any way or warn anybody?
No, we have taken out the bad part.
Okay,
go
ahead.
Cut number 8.
I'm not going to allow biological men into women's private spaces. I will stand in the brink and stand in the way of anyone on the radical left who thinks that it's okay to be in a women's locker room or a bathroom or a changing room. No, I'm not going to stand for it. And the Speaker said it would be in the House rules package. If it's not, I'll be ready with a motion, a privileged motion to force a vote on this. This is not okay. I'm a survivor of rape. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. And I'm not going to allow any man in any female private spaces.
Now, Speaker,
end of story.
Speaker Johnson has said he wants to treat every new member with the words dignity and respect. Forcing this congressperson to go into a male restroom, is that dignity and respect?
Forcing women to share private spaces with men is not dignity and not respect. And I'm absolutely going to stand in the way of anyone who thinks it's okay for a man to be in our locker room, in our changing rooms.
Good for her. Nancy Mace there from South Carolina.
Good response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, House Speaker Johnson got into some trouble with conservatives yesterday because he kind of was not as strong as Nancy Mace on this issue.
Did he waffle?
He waffled. And perhaps after the break, we'll come back and have a listen to what he had to say yesterday.
Okay. I bet he never expected this to be an issue.
Hey, this is going to be controversial.
Yes.
For the new, you heard the media.
Mm-hmm.
The left will not let this go.
Oh, no.
But Nancy Mace.
She ain't letting it go either.
No, she's not letting it go. She's not going to have it. All right, we'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues on the American Family Radio Network.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Jesus said, and we find it in Matthew, the 7th chapter, "For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few." You know, one thing a person learns early about life is that it wasn't meant to be easy. From the moment the baby leaves the protection of the mother's security, it begins to cry. And from that moment on, life never lets up on its demands on those who try to take it seriously. Now, basically, there are two attitudes one can take toward life. One is the take care of myself, don't care too much about the other person, don't get too involved attitude. And this is by far the most traveled road of life for the simple reason that it places no demands upon us that we don't want. We can do as we please or not do as we please. We're content just to live our lives out, patting ourselves on the back, telling ourselves we're doing all that we should be doing. But there's another attitude toward life. That attitude says life is a sacred trust given to us by the Eternal Father, and that it should be used for the benefit of Him and our fellow man. This way of living is very demanding. Very few are those who are willing to strive toward this life. It places demands upon us that we don't want, causes us to strive toward what the masses call the impossible. This is often a very lonely way of living, since those who have common goals are few in number. Many times we're tempted to give it up, to call it quits, to say with a carefree lot that it's an impossibility to live toward that high calling. We're tempted to lower our goals, tone down our plea, and think more about ourselves. But then we ultimately come back to this. Life isn't supposed to be easy. It is supposed to be a challenge. And the very moment we cease working toward that high calling, we begin to deteriorate into nothing but a self-satisfied, selfish human that joins the don't care crowd. When we get to the place where we're ready to throw in the towel and call it quits, what we really need is to know that what we're doing has some eternal, lasting significance to it. For as long as a person can believe that what he is doing has God's stamp of approval on it, he can face any obstacle that stands before him. But once he quits believing in his high calling, he's doomed to a life of selfishness. Sometimes the night gets dark, awful dark, and you begin to question whether or not you should forget that high calling. For your job becomes hard, and you see very little chance of it getting any easier in the future. In times like that, the only thing that will sustain one is the knowledge that what he is doing has God's approval, and that his efforts will not be in vain, and that his God will gladly pour out his grace on those who need it. Life is easy only when we're selfish. It is hard when we choose the high road. And while it gets to be awful dark sometimes on the high road, we need to remember that daylight always follows darkness.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not extinguish. He will faithfully bring forth justice. He will not grow weak or discouraged before he has established justice on the earth. In his law the islands will put their hope. Isaiah 42, 3 and 4.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Welcome back to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim. With Ed, Wesley, and Fred, there is a verdict in the case in Georgia.
Yeah, we have an update to our top story. The man accused of killing Laken Riley has been found guilty of her murder. Pardon me. It took about 20 minutes, I think, for the judge to make his decisions after closing.
20 minutes?
Yeah, about that. Well,
yeah, the evidence was
overwhelming.
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
And as you said, the defense, what do you say if you're a defense attorney and that was all that kind of evidence stacked up against your client? What do you say?
The defense attorney in his opening argument, this way, he says there's no question Laken Riley was murdered. The evidence is overwhelming. However, the case against my client is circumstantial. But the prosecution had so much evidence.
Yeah.
So much evidence.
Well, I just still heartbroken for.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Her. When I've seen her mom, I don't know her dad.
Oh yeah.
Just, you never get over that.
You know, you're not supposed to outlive your kids.
Yeah.
You know, and the way in which she died, and the fact that she died because this guy was here illegally.
Right. Shouldn't have been here.
Like you said, he should not have been here. This was avoidable, and now the parents got to live with that empty chair at Thanksgiving the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Very sad, tragic situation. But there is justice in the sense that this fella was caught and convicted, and now he'll go to prison for the rest of his life. Yes. I would assume, in Georgia especially. Yeah. All right.
So we're going to go back to.
We're going to come back to that later.
We'll come back
Nancy
Mace.
Yeah, the Nancy Mace. We'll get back to Nancy.
Okay.
Nancy and Mike Johnson and their case against Sarah McBride. Sarah's a dude.
100%.
Sarah's a dude. Calls herself a woman. She's a trans.
He's trans.
See what I did there? They got
confusing.
me. They got me.
Listen,
Huh?
I do it all the
All
time.
right, so
we will come back.
We'll get back to that story, and we'll confuse you some more. How about that? That's coming
Sounds
up in
good
just
to me.
a little bit. Because there is another part of the story that we did want to get to that's important related to Speaker Mike Johnson.
Yes.
Well, the name, the musical group, Steve and Annie Chapman. A lot of people familiar with Steve and Annie and their ministry over the decades in music and writing and so forth and so on. And saw Steve and Annie recently when we were in Nashville during the summer for the AFA retreat there. And he's got a new book out called A Look at Life from the Fairway. And it follows up on his book, A Look at Life from the Deer Stand. From a deer stand.
Yeah, I wrote a book years ago. I don't know if this is where Steve got the idea, but A Look at Life from the Pizzeria.
Yeah.
And so
did that catch on?
Yeah, a lot of spiritual
implications there?
Teachings in that.
Yeah, pepperoni.
Yeah.
You can apply pepperoni.
Your choices say a lot about you. You put pineapple on a pizza?
Right. Right. That's what
you
I'm
may not
saying.
be going to heaven.
Decisions.
That's what I'm saying. All right, so Steve joins us from the Nashville area. Good morning, Steve.
Can you hear me okay?
We can. Where are you?
I am in Nolensville, Tennessee,
Okay.
a suburb of Nashville.
Well, listen, thanks for being on with us. Hey, by the way, we're going to play a song in a few minutes. But we're not really Casey Kasem here, but we're going to play a song in a few minutes from back in the day that Steve and Annie are known for. But Steve, that Look at Life from a Deer Stand. That book just exploded, didn't it? When was that? Was that like in the 2000s, or when was that?
No, it was written in the 1900s, back in 96, man.
96? Did you? I mean, did you? You were a music guy. I mean, you didn't write books, but that just boomed, didn't it?
It did. It filled a gap that what hadn't been filled in Christian books. We had written a couple of books with Bethany House and up in Minneapolis, and I was out in a deer hunting camp with a bunch of guys in North Platte, Nebraska, and one of them talked about the James passage, life is but a vapor. He said, this morning, I just couldn't stop the vapor. He said, I know a deer sees it. And he talked about how he come to the, when he saw the vapor, he thought of that James passage. And I thought, man, I've had that same thought. I wonder how many other guys have too. So I started compiling the ideas for how you can connect Scripture to nature and nature to Scripture, and glean some what I call harvest of truths.
Yeah.
And that's what I started doing and came up with that book.
That book's still on chosen book stands at every truck stop in America.
That's amazing, isn't it?
I still see it. So I know that guy right there. A look at life from a deer stand. And now you've written a new one called Devotional, which I wanted to tell people about. It's brand new. And it's a Christmas gift idea or stocking stuffer, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm halfway through it. It's called A Look at Life from the Fairway. Go ahead.
Well, here's the premise I work under with these outdoor books. I believe and convinced that God wires people to like to do a certain thing, maybe a couple of things, but you especially hone in on an interest. Like for me, it was hunting. I like to fish. But when COVID happened and our schedule went blank, I had a friend invited me to go play golf. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed it. But, God can use a person's interest to use it as a classroom to teach him something or her. But you got to be looking for it. And that's what the Look at Life from a Deer Stand is full of, these insights I've gleaned. That's what a Look at Life from a Fairway is. Now, I started to call it A Look at Life from a Sand Trap. But
that's a good one.
I don't think you would have sold. I don't think you would have sold very many If you're going to look at life from the sand trap. For those who don't know about golf, you don't want to be in the sand trap. You want to be in the
You do want to be in a deer stand, but you don't want to be in the sand trap.
Duly noted. But a look at life from the fairway. It's a devotional, and it is excellent. It's not, when I start reading these kinds of books, and I don't read many of them, I go, well, this is probably going to be cheesy, right?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this is a non-golfer's, but somebody who's played golf or knows golf, they're going to appreciate all the truths that Steve communicates in here from the scripture, that while he talks some fun and funny things about his golf experiences. A look at life from the fairway. And you can get that. It's published by Harvest House, and get it for a golfer, for a Christmas gift. What is the song we're about to play, Steve?
It's called Finish Well. I believe that's what you might have queued up. And every golfer wants to finish well, but that's that song was, believe it or not, was written at the Baker, Jim Baker and Tammy.
Tammy
was
Faye.
dying. Yeah, she was dying, and she looked terrible, and was on Larry King's show. And she just, through a very hoarse voice, said, "Larry, I want to see you in heaven." And she was a different person. But Annie looked at me when we watched that interview, and she said, "Say what you will about Tammy Faye, but she will finish well." And I went, "That's a great idea."
Great idea for a song.
But the song is actually about my dad. I called him one day and I said, "Dad, why don't we get you the internet so we can connect that way? Get you the web." He said, I don't want the web. I got one. I get it down with a broom every once in a while. And he said, I don't want to mess with that stuff. I got friends at the office, and the office is the little restaurant he goes to and meets with his preacher friends. He said, I got friends at the office who've gotten into stuff that they shouldn't have got into on the internet. So he said, let's not do that.
Okay.
But that's what.
So this was a song written by you in the when was this, in the 90s maybe?
No, 2008.
2008. Finish Well. Steve and Annie Chapman. Let's hear it.
I want to finish well. I want to end this race, still leaning on His amazing grace. I want my last few miles to testify that God never fails. I don't want to fall down this close to the line. I want to finish well. He'll turn 81 next Sunday. I called him on the phone. I said, I'm coming to see you, Grandpa. What can I bring along? Would you like a dish for your TV? Or would you like the internet? He said, thank you, boy, but this ain't the time to be tripping over stuff like that. I want to finish well. I want to end this race, still leaning on His amazing grace. I want my last few miles to testify that God never fails. I don't want to fall down this close to the line. I want to finish well. Bring me a Bible where the words are big and tall, so these old eyes can read the truth that'll help me not to fall. 'Cause I want to finish well. I want to end this race, still leaning on His amazing grace. I want my last few miles to testify that God never fails. I don't want to fall down this close to the line. I want to finish well. I don't want to fall down this close to the line. I want to finish well.
That song by Steve Chapman, our guest right now from Nashville area, Steve Chapman, from Steve and Annie Chapman. They were traveled America as ambassadors to the families, what Dr. James Dobson called them, for 3 decades or more. And so Steve, if people want to get your music, they can still do that. How do they do that?
SteveandAnnieChapman.com. We have a Shopify store that they can go to, and all the books and what we have available is there. And by the way, do you know what golf stands for if you break it down?
Golf, okay.
Go out, look foolish.
yeah, but when you hit that good shot, it sure is fun.
Keeps you paying the green fees.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Steve, take care. Say hello to Annie, and we look forward to maybe we can play sometime soon. Okay, brother?
What, music or golf?
Either one.
Yeah.
I can go either.
Dad won't be playing any music.
I can go either way. I have cello experience from junior high school.
But by the way, I was listening to that song. My dad is not my grandpa.
I know. I wondered about that. It's your dad you were talking about, right?
Yeah, I framed him as a grandpa, because I needed an extra syllable.
Oh, it's that that's simple to explain, huh? Okay.
Yeah, but,
all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Steve. Thank you. Steve Chapman, Chapman.
What a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. So there are 2 books I would recommend for a sporting enthusiast or outdoors enthusiast.
Right.
A Look at Life from a Deer Stand. If you've never that's for hunters, that's a great book, devotional book. And for golfers, A Look at Life from the Fairway.
And is the A Look at Life from the Deer Stand, is it that size book? I'm pointing.
Yeah.
Because
similar.
those would be good stocking stuffers. It's a small little devotional book.
Yeah, and it takes about 3 minutes to read the devotional. I'm about halfway through it, but
not the whole thing. You mean each devotion? Takes about
do what now?
Takes about 3 minutes to read. How many devotions are in there?
I would say maybe 50, maybe something like that. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Now, getting back to this story for just a moment, because we needed to wrap. We said we were going to talk the story involving the House of Representatives. There is a person.
The dude.
Okay, yes.
Dressed like a lady.
You're going to sing Aerosmith's song now?
No,
okay.
That's not a good group.
Okay. All right, so this fella, he calls himself Sarah, and he says he's a girl.
He was elected in Delaware.
In Delaware, he was elected as a House of Representatives, U.S. House of Representatives, not state. But
how many votes? I'm sorry, I'm taking us off track here. I got to know how. I still got too many questions.
What's his name again?
I have to get back to you on that.
His name again?
We'll look this up.
Sarah.
How many people?
Sarah McBride. That's what he.
I want names.
That's what. That's what he calls himself. Anyway, the point is, you heard Nancy Mace from South Carolina, a U.S. Congresswoman, and she said, "No way, not letting this dude in the bathroom, or the showers, or anything else in the in the House."
That is correct.
Okay, because that's inappropriate and not acceptable, and so has he said? Has Sarah said whether or not they're going to use bathrooms for females or not?
I have not seen him quoted as saying that.
Okay. Listen, I know that, do you call it gender confusion?
Yeah, among other things.
Okay, well, for some people, that's a serious mental disorder. Well, for all of them, it's a serious mental disorder. They don't acknowledge it as such.
You're saying some of them do acknowledge it and it won't help, and others not so much. Is that what?
I don't want to seem like I don't care about these people as individuals because they're God's children. They're unrepentant.
They're made in the image of God.
They're made in the image of God, but they're very, very messed up.
Right.
For a girl to call himself a boy and a boy to call himself a girl and dress as the opposite sex, something's wrong. Okay? They're not.
And it's no different than a person who is skinny thinking they are obese with anorexia and
starving themselves.
And they actually believe it.
Yes. They actually believe it.
We covered all this in His image.
Yeah. So I don't want to minimize. I don't want to just seem like a mocker and a scoffer here.
Yeah.
I don't want to minimize the
person that's
the
seeking help.
seriousness of the mental problem here that I see it, and spiritual problem, because these people think that they're something that they're not. But you can't say that you are something that you're not and then go force that on the rest of the public is what I'm saying. So
including female members of Congress.
Yes. So House Speaker Mike Johnson was asked to respond to the idea of this new member, Sarah, who's a guy, going and using the girls' restrooms.
Yes.
In the Capitol, right?
After Congresswoman Nancy Mace put a line in the sand.
She said blankety blank no.
Yes. Basically, that's what she said. So reporters raced to Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, basically to say, so what are you going to do about this?
Right. Was he prepared for this question?
Well, what you're going to hear first is his initial response, and then I would put a little pause in there because he took a lot of flack for the initial response, and then he comes back, and I'll tell you he's still taking flack for the second try at this. All right? So here we go. Here's House Speaker Mike Johnson. Cut 9.
Is freshman-elect Sarah McBride a man or a woman?
Look, I'm not going to get into this. We welcome all new members with open arms who are duly elected representatives of the people. I believe it's a command that we treat all persons with dignity and respect, and we will. And I'm not going to engage in silly debates about this. There's a concern about the uses of restroom facilities and locker rooms and all that. This is an issue that Congress has never had to address before, and we're going to do that in deliberate fashion with member consensus on it, and we will accommodate the needs of every single person.
Later that same day.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make a statement for all of you here and be very clear. I was asked a question this morning at the leadership gaggle, and I rejected the premise because the answer is so obvious. For anybody who doesn't know my well-established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman. That said, I also believe, that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said, but I also believe that we treat everybody with dignity. And so we can do and believe all those things at the same time. And I wanted to make that clear for everybody because there's lots of questions. But that's where I stand. I've stood there my whole life, and those are facts.
Well, first of all, let me just say, to answer your question, Tim, goes back to Election Day with 95% of the vote in. On Election Day, McBride had 58% of the vote. So Delaware's a proudly, is your question?
Yeah, I just want to know.
Proudly liberal state, and they voted for a man in a dress, 58%.
Okay, so what was wrong with the second answer, Fred?
Well, he didn't answer the question as to what he is going to do about this. Now, he was firm on what he believes. He says, I believe what the Bible says.
I think he got caught off guard on that first try.
I think he doesn't have an answer right now. I don't know what you do when you don't got an answer other than just give your personal opinion.
And go ahead.
I think what's probably going to happen, there will be a proposal for a third type of bathroom.
Good Lord.
Okay, see, now here's the thing.
But there will be a battle.
The Lord has nothing to do with this one.
I said good gracious.
He is.
So
he's already settled this one.
Yes.
When Target, we boycotted Target. I think that's starting back in 2015 or 2016. We first started boycotting Target because they unapologetically welcomed men into women's restrooms. Target came out and said, we are going to have genderless, neutral bathrooms available. So most people can see these now. In some stores, it's like on the image on the doors, half man, half woman, and it's a neutral bathroom. Either one can go in.
But it only fits one person.
Right. It's a single occupancy.
Yes.
And we said that's not good enough.
Mhm.
And you know what? It wasn't good enough for the trans community because this dude, Sarah, he calls himself Sarah McBride, he insists that he's a woman.
Yeah.
And what he's going to say is, no, I don't want to go into the gender neutral bathroom because you're telling me that I'm not a woman. I want to go. Listen.
You think he's going to take that approach? Do you know that for-
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the whole point of this thing is you've got to honor the way I see myself. And let me tell you something. Speaker Johnson is in a tough spot.
Yes, he is.
Because what are you going to do if Sarah McBride, the new representative from Delaware, says, no, I'm going into the ladies' room because I'm a woman? What are you going to do? You gonna put U.S. Marshals out there and arrest?
I think that's the problem here. They don't have an answer.
Right.
And that's why I think they're going to. I think right now they're sitting down probably talking about this.
I think Nancy Mace.
She has an answer.
Let Nancy Mace have at him.
And here's the thing: you're going to have Democratic representatives on the left saying, "I've got no problem with it. This is a mess." And when you raise your fist against God and you defiantly ignore nature, this is what you get.
Yeah.
Utter confusion.
I will say this.
And chaos.
It is an issue. Speaker Johnson's right. You never had to address something like this. See what I did there? And so you do go, what can I do legally? I mean, do we put you put guards outside a restroom?
Right.
Say,
taxpayer.
What do you say? I mean, what do you say? So I don't know. Maybe this fella, Sarah, he says he's a woman. Okay. Speaker Johnson said a man's a man and a woman's a woman. And that's the way God made it, and that's the way you can put on a dress and lipstick if you want to and call yourself a woman, but you're not a woman. So that's just the end of story on that note. But maybe that person, though, will decide to go to the men's restroom. Or go to. Or
I don't think. Here's what Steve Jordan, he texted me and said, we're going to have a bathroom for Democrat women and a bathroom for Republican women.
All right, we'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Dr. Travis was a man that was full of life.
Bert Harper of Exploring the Word.
He loved the Word of God, and it came across in the classroom. Dr. Travis put in my heart a desire to know God through His Word. And that's what we're trying to do on Exploring the Word.
Exploring the Word, weekday afternoons at 3 Central on American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. President-elect Trump's cabinet nominees are meeting with Republican senators.
A source familiar says Vice President-elect J.D. Vance will begin making the rounds on Capitol Hill by arranging meetings with key GOP senators and cabinet nominations Matt Gaetz, who's nominated for Attorney General, and Department of Defense nominee Pete Hegseth. A Trump transition team spokesperson says Veterans Affairs nominee Doug Collins and United Nations Ambassador nominee Elise Stefanik will begin meetings with additional Hill visits coming after Thanksgiving recess. On Capitol Hill, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
Vice President-elect J.D. Vance says President Trump's team is conducting interviews to replace FBI Director Christopher Wray. Ohio Republican Congressman Jim Jordan says he wants someone who will not be part of what he calls weaponization against we the people.
I want someone running the Justice Department, someone running the FBI, who's not going to say, oh, we're going to go investigate moms and dads at school board meetings. I want someone running the Justice Department, the FBI, who's not going to have a memorandum from the Richmond field office, as an example, where they said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist.
President-elect Trump has vowed to ramp up border security measures, including deploying the military to conduct a mass deportation of illegals. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has seen the effects of illegal immigration in his own state and stands behind Trump's plan for border security.
While they're in the process of removing people from the country, especially the dangerous criminals, and making our country a safer place, we have to, at the same time, ensure that we are building the barriers and denying the illegal entry into our country so that we don't have even more people coming across the border.
President Biden is now allowing Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied anti-personnel mines to deter Russian aggression after authorizing the use of American long-range missiles to hit targets deeper in Russia. Florida Republican Congressman Corey Mills.
If you think about the recent approvals by Biden to try and launch HIMARS and ATACMS into Russia to hit Russian targets, that's not exactly a way to de-escalate the situation.
A defense analyst says Biden seems committed to push us as close to war as possible.
With just 2 months left in office, President Joe Biden is helping escalate the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. On Tuesday, the Kremlin reported that Ukraine fired a barrage of U.S.-made long-range missiles into Russia after President Joe Biden gave Kyiv permission to do so. Russia said it shot down 5 of the missiles and damaged the 6th. And Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a revised doctrine lowering the threshold for nuclear response if Russia is attacked. Orrin McIntyre is a host and commentator at The Blaze. He weighed in on the crisis on American Family Radio.
It's very clear from what is happening in Ukraine right now that really this war only exists because the United States is fighting as in a proxy war. We are functionally at war with Russia. The Ukraine would not be continuing its efforts. It certainly would not be firing missiles into Russia without our assistance. And so this war is only being artificially extended because the United States thinks it's good foreign policy to fight to the last Ukrainian.
But McIntyre says the American people have made it clear that they do not want this war.
That is one of the main reasons they have chosen Donald Trump, is his commitment to peace through strength, but also recognizing that America is not a world empire that is involved in every conflict across the globe. And yet the Biden administration says, nope, our last act in office will be to push us as close to war as possible.
But McIntyre says it is very clear that Donald Trump is looking to pursue peace as soon as he enters office. I'm Chad Groening.
The FDA tells a toothpaste maker to clean up its act after an inspection found what appears to be black mold at one of its manufacturing facilities.
Food and Drug Administration officials sent a warning letter to Tom's of Maine earlier this month, citing violations found at its facility in Sanford, Maine. The letter says an inspection done in May found a black mold-like substance at the base of a hose reel and behind a water storage tank, as well as powder residues near a batch of toothpaste. It also says bacteria that can cause blood or lung infections was found in water samples used to make the company's Simply White Clean Mint paste. Another bacteria linked to infections like conjunctivitis was detected in a batch of Tom's Wicked Cool anti-cavity toothpaste. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
This weekend on The Stand Radio, Pastor Sam Crabtree, author of the book Practicing Thankfulness, will explain how a thankful heart is crucial in accomplishing God's work in our lives.
God does not waste one shred of the adversity that comes into our life, but He uses it to conform us to the image of Jesus and to develop in us the character of His Son.
The Stand Radio, Saturdays at 4 and Sundays at 8 p.m. Central on AFR.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. Tim Wildman here with Ed Battagliano, Wesley Wildman, and Steve Paisley-Jordahl. Good morning, Brother Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
So are we going to be having a funeral service for MSNBC in the next month or two?
Could happen. I don't know. They are on the chopping block. The Comcast, which owns the network, is spinning them off along with some other media holdings.
I would donate toward it.
You mean for the burial? Okay. Yes. Okay. To help them out.
You'd pay for some flowers.
Flowers. Yes.
Their viewership is way. I mean, they're like under 1 million. They're like 500,000 or something for a.
And every time we mention
For a
their
nightly
decline and their numbers, you have to remember they have written contracts to be in airports.
That's
MSNBC.
CNN.
I mean,
I'm
it's
sorry,
CNBC.
CNN does.
CNN does. Yes, CNN does. CNN's down too. I don't know. They've been hemorrhaging over the last few years. I don't know. Fox News. I think Fox News on an average weekday night has 2.5 million. So.
And some of that, a lot of that's contributed to their content and the worldview, but some of that's also contributed to the number of people podcasting and sharing their own, having their own, they're bypassing.
But to your point about the content, so admittedly this is a Fox News story, but for the week after the election, Fox News finished with its highest share of the cable news audience in its 28-year history. Simultaneously, MSNBC posted its lowest rated week in over 25 years after Trump's victory.
Yeah, well, it's like life. You know, there's winners and losers.
Yeah.
You know, and the Fox won, and
I'm trying to get the
MSNBC lost. Rachel Maddow, did she ever have her cow? Remember I said she was going to have a cow in the air if Trump won?
I remember you saying that. I don't think she had a cow, though. I'll look it up.
Look it up. Say, did Rachel Maddow
I don't want to
actually have a cow? All right, Steve, what's your first story?
All right, I thought we'd check in with the anti-Semite crowd here. They've been feeling a little neglected lately with the election on and everything, and so they're raising their ugly heads, and this is how they're doing it. A new biblical epic is coming to Netflix this Christmas. It's garnering some online backlash, though. The Netflix series is called Mary, and it is
M-A-R-Y?
M-A-R-Y. It's a look at the birth story through the eyes of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Well,
on Netflix?
On Netflix, yeah.
So is it going to be authentic to the Bible or not?
I can't speak to that. There is a part of it that is going to be
But you're
authentic.
bringing it up for some reason.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, you'll love this. Since Netflix dropped the trailer, it has been relentlessly attacked, this according to Fox News, by the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic critics on social media who are upset because they cast Mary and Joseph with Jewish actors.
Are you serious?
I am serious. And this is what they're saying.
But they were Jewish, right?
Yeah. Yes.
No, they weren't. But several people online are now calling for a boycott, claiming the film is historically inaccurate because they say Mary and Joseph were actually Palestinian.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what they're saying.
They're actors. I don't care what they are. They're paid to perform and be fictional.
You're talking about the anti-Semites? They're also kind of
they were Jewish. Listen, comments on social media, people will warn you, don't feed the trolls.
Right.
So I would not argue with people who would insist that Joseph and Mary were not Jewish. I mean, that's just taking idiocy to a whole new level.
Yep.
And I'm not going to waste my time with those kind of people, but it doesn't even disappoint me. Because I did not have the expectation that these morons who hate Jews because they're Jews could bring any kind of intelligence to the discussion.
There you go.
And if it's on Netflix, I expect it to be a liberal. I expect Mary to be a feminist.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph, I'm not going to tell you again, pick up after yourself. I told you, don't leave those sandals there. And you want a sandwich? Are your legs broken? Go make one yourself.
It could be. It could be.
Those are all phrases I've heard before.
In that case,
in
do
my
you
life,
think
from various people
who will be unnamed?
Yeah.
In that case, do you think Jesus would have to come and do some counseling with his parents? Or?
Oh man, this world's just getting nuttier and nuttier.
Next story, Steve.
All right. We are
ready to move on.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
I was wasting his time anyway.
I could have gone on.
Yeah.
I assure you.
All right. We are finding out that the FBI launched an investigation into Donald Trump far earlier than we first thought. They remember the term crossfire hurricane? That was the James Comey ordered operation to investigate Donald Trump for Russian collusion, right?
Yes.
Came up totally empty. It was fictitious. They knew it was fictitious when they launched it. They were just trying to smear the guy. But they launched that right about the time he started his term in office. Before that, a whistleblower is reporting that the FBI targeted Donald Trump and his campaign shortly after they announced in June of 2015 they had an agent involved in the probe. The whistleblower disclosure had said 2 female FBI undercover agents infiltrated Mr. Trump's 2016 campaign at high levels and were directed to act as what they call honeypots while traveling with Mr. Trump and the campaign staff on the trail. A honeypot is when you send a woman in to compromise the morals of the campaign or of the person.
So you can use the individual's moral fall against him.
Right.
It's usually men who fall for these tricks.
Right. And you're coming in and it's not, and the woman, it's Delilah. They're trapping.
Yes, it's a good point. That's a biblical example of what we're talking about. So this whistleblower is saying that Comey and the FBI had a opposing party's candidates' campaign infiltrated with the hopes of entrapping him.
Were they all
and destroying him?
What made this come up at this point? Is that were they investigating something and then
the whistleblower came forward? I don't know if it with the change in leadership, maybe he thinks now they
maybe not lose
that
his
is
job.
A good question, though.
Want to give something?
I'm curious. Taken a long time to for this man or woman to come.
I talked to a friend of mine, Jeff Crank, who is congressman-elect from Colorado. I wanted to get his thoughts about the bathroom thing, but also whether or not he was going to ask for an investigation. So with the new Congress, the new energy, I think this is the whistleblower may have come forward. I have nothing to back this up, just a thought. May have come forward hoping that the new Congress would investigate. It was something new to put on the thoroughly corrupt FBI.
Yeah, that is corruption. Listen, I'll just say this. I hope that President Trump, when he is inaugurated and gets his 4 years underway, that he puts somebody in charge of seriously investigating the intelligence community and the FBI, FISA courts, all this stuff that have been weaponized against the opposite political party. And I hope people go to prison if they've broken laws.
What they're going to call that political retribution, which you can't. You promise to do it. Some people would call it justice,
right?
But yes, he needs to do exactly that. I always snicker a little bit when I hear the Democrats saying that they're worried about weaponizing the government against them. I mean, that's what they've been doing for the last 8 years.
Yes, and they assumed that they would have another 4 years.
Yeah. To hide the bodies.
Yep.
They never consider what could happen, what could go wrong if they lose.
Right. So the same thing happened when they deep sixed the filibuster for Supreme Court justices.
Yep.
They thought we're gonna get what we want and never have to pay the piper, and then the worm turns. I'm mixing metaphors.
Yeah, you are.
I don't know if he was serious, but I did hear a Republican publicly offer to take the Democrats up on their
worm turning?
No, on their proposal to dispense with the filibuster altogether in the Senate once the new Senate convenes.
One thing
packing the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Well,
you okay with that now?
Yeah.
One thing you're not hearing this go around after the 2024 election is the removal of the Electoral College.
Right.
Because Trump won both the electoral and the popular.
Yep. All right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. We have a guest, do we, Ed?
Yeah, we do. We want to welcome Blake Thompson, president of Mississippi College. It's a college here in this state. We're going to talk a little bit about education. Mississippi.
Oh, yeah. This state. The state we're in.
The state we're in.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about a change coming to Mississippi College and why this is impactful considering the state of higher education in this country. So, Blake, welcome to today's issues.
Good morning. I am glad to be with you. I'm glad to be calling in to a Northeast Mississippi phone number. I am a Northeast Mississippi native.
Right. Oh, where are you from?
Ryanzi, Mississippi.
Okay, on the Tennessee line almost.
About 30 minutes north of Tupelo.
Yes, sir. We're well aware of it. So you wanted to ask.
Yeah, Blake, first of all, I want you to tell our listeners, some people may say, well, this is just about Mississippi, but you are making a change. Mississippi College is making a change, and I want to talk a little bit about why I think this is important nationally. So tell us what the Board of Trustees has done for Mississippi College.
Yeah, I'm glad to do that. We have announced that as part of our bicentennial, so we will be 200 years old in the year 2026, oldest university in the state of Mississippi. As part of our bicentennial, we will be changing our name to Mississippi Christian University. And it really is, it's a bold decision, but it really allows us to take our place on the national stage as a preeminent Christian university. We believe we do both academic excellence, and we have a commitment to the cause of Christ. And we want to take that to a national stage, and we believe we can do that. We're ready to do that.
Well, Blake, so why in a time when a lot of colleges that were founded as Christian colleges and universities but have moved towards wokeness or diluted the power of the Christian gospel or the message of the Bible, why did Mississippi College and the Board of Trustees, why did you all decide to come right out front and say, listen, we're a Christian university?
Because it's a hostile environment.
Yes.
Out of all times to do it, this is not an easy time. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
We think it's a great time to do it. We think more than ever this world needs a message that we can provide. And we do believe we can do rigorous academics and be committed to Christ at the same time. And I think the world's actually hungry for that. It's this whole idea of the integration of intellect and faith that we believe we do better than anybody else.
We're talking to Blake Thompson. He's the president of Mississippi College, soon to be. What did you say the new name will be?
Mississippi Christian University.
And so just to be, the reason we wanted to have Blake on is to talk about this because they make it. They want to proclaim where they stand. Go ahead.
Yeah, and there's so many other once were deep-rooted Christian
college
ministries like Crew we've talked about before, who have actually taken Christianity. They're taking the word Christian or Christianity. They're trying to remove it or get away from that so they can open up in their name, open up the tent or make a bigger platform. But he's saying, no, we're proud of the name Christian,
and we want parents and students to know that we're Christian.
Hey, Blake, we're proud of the fact we're in Mississippi. We don't see that as anything other than a positive. I really do believe if you want to go and solve the hardest healthcare problems in the world, you come to Mississippi to do that. We believe if you want to do things like reform education, you come to a place like Mississippi to do it. We're also committed to the Christian piece of what we do. We say proudly that we're committed to the cause of Christ. And then by every stretch of the imagination, we are a university, a comprehensive university. We have a law school, graduate programs, a robust undergraduate curriculum. I'm proud of all the pieces of what Mississippi Christian University stands for.
Blake, this is Steve Jordahl. This is what I was going to ask you. Is there a technical difference between a college and a university, or is it just what you decide to call yourself?
I think a lot of it is what you decide to call yourself. Traditionally, what we have seen is universities are comprehensive institutions. Several years ago, probably 15 years ago, I remember seeing an article in Time magazine, and the president of Miami-Dade Community College simply referred to his institution as Miami-Dade College. And I believe it has become known as Miami-Dade College ever since. And I think there's a real need for us to differentiate ourselves as a comprehensive university and say that we offer both liberal arts undergraduate curriculum, but pre-professional programs, professional degrees, graduate programs, all of those things are available on our campus.
Talking to Dr. Blake Thompson. Before we let you go, Dr. Thompson, see here, your bio says you operate a, quote, small blueberry farm. Is that right?
I have a small blueberry farm in northeast Mississippi, and I'm not very good at it.
Well, I was going to ask you, how do you farm blueberries? I mean, how do you do that? Because
I don't a whole lot. I have a small blueberry farm, about 1,000 blueberry bushes.
Okay,
it's a great place to get away and remind myself of the things that are really important in life. When this job
like
gets,
blueberry pancakes.
That's right. That kind of borders on misleading people with your bio a little bit, because it says a, quote, small blueberry farm, and I'm sensing
well,
you
I'm
got
not
three.
producing a whole lot of blueberries for the market.
I'm sensing 3 bushes out back.
No, he said 1,000. Would you say 1,000?
I'm just kidding. All right. Well, listen. All right. Next time you're coming through Tupelo, drop us off some of those blueberries, okay?
I would love to do that. I appreciate all of you. Hey, I'd also love to invite all your listeners out there to come visit Mississippi Christian University and see what we have to offer.
Okay, where's the website? What's the website?
mc.edu.
mc.edu. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So I had have you guys got blueberries at all?
I have a couple blueberry bushes.
Yeah, me too.
My previous owner,
You mean on your own property?
Yeah, the previous owner of a house, he had blueberries coming out his nose, but he cooked with them and everything.
That's painful.
I can't.
Well,
I knew it.
You keep doing that, you're going to have surgery.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
He had a lot of blueberries.
Coming out
I will say this: New England is especially Maine, very well known for its blueberries. And I remember, in New Hampshire too, but where I grew up. But I mean, big, fat, thick blueberries.
You can't do that here that I've seen. Maybe blueberries
because it's so hot.
I don't know. The blueberries that we grew,
Small.
had a blueberry bush. Did you, Wesley?
I don't have any.
Okay, I had a blueberry bush, and it was like these were like dwarfs.
Yeah.
Okay, they were like.
It's got to be something to do with the weather.
Dwarf
the heat,
blueberries.
the summer,
They never, I guess they
You
never.
got to fertilize and keep up with them.
Yeah. It was just stuck out in the yard. It got no attention.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
You weren't
it got browsed down too by animals too. Y'all's
I
did.
bet
that what
birds.
happens?
Birds,
Anyway, it's a lot of work for.
It wasn't established.
A lot of work for very little.
Blueberry.
Very few blueberries.
Not that we leave much time on this program to be serious, but but to be serious for a minute, Ed, I appreciate you bringing that story in because. As I was pointing out earlier, we see so much of the other way, trying to distance themselves. We see a lot of Christian ministries, a lot of Christian education that try to distance themselves from Christianity, and they're doing the reverse.
Yes.
Well, you used an example here because we all grew up. Most of us grew up with Campus Crusade for Christ.
Right.
Started by Dr. Bill Bright and Athletes in Action. They're well known forever in the Christian community and as being an evangelistic, them and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, probably the two
most influential.
Yeah, on high school and college campuses, especially college campuses.
All over the country. Yeah.
And Campus Crusade for Christ changed their name to Cru, which, what does that even mean?
It's just a shortened, they called it, the students were calling it.
They said the word crusade was the problem. Campus Crusade.
Oh, because Crusade. Well, see, there you go. That's PC stuff.
That's what it was. That's where it began.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the word crusade.
Nope.
Okay. Anyway, it's that what you're saying is, and I don't mean to pile on Cru. I mean, I'm sure they're wonderful people that
work there. Yes, but the leadership.
Tried to change the name because they got spooked by the word crusade, and you're saying that's how even these.
Well, you can be as hard as you want on them because here's why: is because Cru started with all their DEI and their woke changes from the top, and the people on the ground roots, just like the Methodists, they didn't agree. They disagreed. They said this is wrong. We're not gonna go with this, by and large. And over a period of 5 years or so, those that worked on the ground level that disagreed with what was coming up
probably left.
They resigned peacefully.
Okay.
So that's why you don't hear much about it, because they didn't push it to the point where they were going to get fired over it. They just said, "Look, if this is a new direction of Crew, we're out."
One of the reasons that this ministry is coming to mind, Crew is coming to mind, because in the last day or two we've had a story where they fired 2 Crew staff.
That's right.
Because I think they were husband and wife. I think
they were,
because they had a biblical understanding of marriage.
And they fired them?
Where did you get
them.
this story?
Do
you remember?
I don't remember
We covered it in the news story. In the news.
They fired them because they believed in man and woman marriage, and that was
That's unbelievable.
Too far for Crew. Yeah.
Anyway, well, that's ridiculous.
The point, and back to the point is, why you have other ministries going in that direction, they're saying no.
Well, go woke, go broke, as they say, and by that, if you go woke as a Christian denomination or a Christian school and you lose your way because you subscribe to wokeness, you will eventually lose your mission, purpose, and then you'll lose your people, and then you'll
lose your biblical worldview.
You'll be gone. You'll be out. Either God will take you out, or you'll take yourself out with your lack.
I got more examples. Do we need to get to another story?
Well, I got something we can end with. By the way, we were having a discussion about Mississippi Christian University around our table. Bicentennial, they actually have a building that at one point housed Robert E. Lee's horses.
Yeah, I do too. So,
all right, hey, the Trump dance is all the craze. Well, we've now
been doing it.
We've now figured out how different news outlets are covering it. These are the headlines from different news outlets, courtesy of the Babylon Bee, of how they're covering it. Fox News, the headline is Trump mesmerizes millions with hot, sexy dance moves. The Huff Post, the racist roots of the Trump dance, and Salon. Do you know who else danced? Adolf Hitler.
That's how God. These are serious headlines? Oh, okay.
The Babylon Bee.
All right. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
They got you, though, Ed.
They did. They got me.
I have a whole bunch of others, but we can.
By the way, I'm just glancing on the internet, searching, coming back to this Crew thing. This couple, the Mundells, they were a great group in the 60s, by the way.
They were. I don't know whatever happened to them.
Said the husband told his supervisor that they were asking them to support pronoun hospitality. Yep. And he said, we can't do that. And he was told.
The crew director was wanting to do that?
This
Crew Central.
Crew top down wants you to do pronouns.
Pronoun hospitality, and he was told that he wasn't being winsome. And so they fired the couple.
I'm sorry. Pronoun hospitality.
That was the last couple left.
That was his new pronouns, winsome, loosome.
Well,
that's genius.
Will the last chapter of Crew please turn the lights out?
Right.
Yes, right. That's right.
Oh, my word. That's just ridiculous.
Winsome, loosome. That's...
All right.
I tell you, that's brilliant. That's
probably time to end this show before we say something we will regret. Not that we don't say things we regret already. Have a great day, everybody. See you tomorrow.